Command codes verified. Priority 1 message from Starfleet coming in on secured channel.
Hello, Captains, and welcome to a very special presentation here on the Roddenberry YouTube channel, presented by Priority 1 Podcast, a virtual roundtable conversation featuring some of the most trusted community content creators in the Star Trek community. With us today is a group of talented and creative live streamers, artists, podcasters, gamers, and multimedia creators, all of whom are passionate Star Trek fans who offer their time and talents to engaging with the franchise and its community. Today's topic, how the Star Trek community can have an impact on real-life events and how the gaming community can offer support and comfort during difficult times. You know, Captains, it's been a tough few years, especially since the start of the pandemic, but that hasn't stopped creative minds like those in this group here today from trying to shine a little light of positivity. But before we jump in, let's introduce ourselves. My name is Elio. I serve as the executive producer and host of Priority 1, a Roddenberry Star Trek podcast, and today I'll be your moderator for this conversation. And so that way everybody can introduce themselves. Peace, let's start with you.
I'm Piece by Piece, aka Nick. I stream on Twitch, and yeah, I'm just a really big Star Trek fan. I don't have super fancy titles, but that's me.
And how long have you been producing your content?
Almost 3 years now.
Nice. And what inspired you to start?
Honestly, kind of boredom, kind of like I need something to do to engage with more people, and I found Twitch, and here we are 3 years later.
Nice. Your Picard cosplay is epic.
It is
among so many of the other ones. Like you do great work. So it's a pleasure having you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Zeph.
Hi.
Hi. All right, good. Now I'm gonna have to reel him in. Hi, Zeph. How are you?
I've had better days.
I'm sorry. Well, hopefully it'll lighten up a little bit by joining us here today.
Yeah, that's the hope. I've been kind of on content creation hiatus for a few months, and so this is kind of the first time I've kind of been thrusted back into it, and there's been moments of I shouldn't do this, and then somebody said please do it, and I'm like, okay, so I'm here.
Well, we're glad that you're here with us. So tell us a little bit about the type of content that you produce.
So I primarily do cinematic work using ship models from Star Trek Online. And there goes my throat already. Really, what inspired me to get into that is the one thing that I really found fascinating in Star Trek was the ships. And I always found myself getting goosebumps whenever you see like epic flybys of like the Enterprise E going over the Defiance towards the Borg cube. And so it's those kind of feelings that I try and reproduce with. I've now done over 125 ships, I want to say. So I just have been doing that for like 6 years, and that's what I do.
That's how many years is that?
6.5 years now.
6.5
7.
years.
Yeah.
Nice. Well,
Dang.
again, and what inspired you? What inspired you to start it all?
Really, I saw somebody made a cinematic video, kind of like an Avengers opener with like characters from some fleet, and I'm like, you could do that in this game. So I'm like, and then I'm like, I could do that with ships, and then I started doing it with ships, and now here I am, still doing it with ships.
And those are epic cinematics. So thank you for what you do to contribute.
No,
Kat, why don't we talk to you a little bit?
Hello.
I don't know you very well. I have no idea. Who you are.
Yeah, it's not like we never like co-hosted that podcast
It's not like,
together.
yeah, it's not like we work on something.
Which we have been doing a little over 2 years now. 3, I think maybe 3 years.
You,
yeah,
maybe
me 3, but you much longer.
10.
But this is about me.
It is about you. So, what kind of content do you produce, and what are you involved in?
Okay, so I contribute to the podcast, but I also help run the Priority One Armada within Star Trek Online, which I have been doing for 6 years now. But we've also live stream every Saturday for about the past 4 years now. So we're about to do our 200th episode up pretty soon. Yeah, so that's what I do.
Nice. And what inspired you to start?
I guess just still like everybody else, inspired by Star Trek. You know, when I had never played really any other video games ever because I was doing other stuff my whole life. So when I got introduced to Star Trek Online, I was just thought this was the most magical thing ever because it was during the drought of content. So it was all this Star Trek story. It was fascinating. So I just really got into the game and, watch more Star Trek and meet more people. And, you get really interesting conversations and leads you in very interesting directions.
Excellent. Well, thank you for being a part of this this afternoon.
Absolutely.
And for contributing. Q, why don't we talk with you a little bit? Introduce yourself, please.
Well, as you said, I'm Q, or it's short for Qsaku, which was my gamer tag back in the 90s. And of course, when you're on Xbox Live, everybody shortens your name, and so it was just Q this, Q that, Q this, which led to me doing freelance writing, which led to me doing a column called the Q Continuum back in the late 90s, early 2000s. And so it was just kind of a moniker that I've kept for such a long time that's essentially where the Q Continuum came from. It was just an extension of that identity. I am mostly a live streamer. I don't do a lot of VOD content, although I've tried to do VOD content, but I always feel a little intimidated because there's so many awesome, present company included, VOD editors and producers and creators, and I always feel like maybe I'll just stick to live streaming and not try to dip my toe into that end of the pool. So, and plus, I'd rather watch Zeph's videos or all the amazing build videos that are out there from all the various content creators, and that's kind of led to me. I love supporting them. Like, I really enjoy supporting the community. That's where I get where I feel my best position is like a utility. So we started a content creators group called the Galaxy Alliance, which basically props up as many of our fellow content creators as we possibly can, gets the word out. Any new videos that get popped up, there's a script that runs and finds a new video, puts it up on our social media, and just alerts everybody, hey, go see Zeph's new video, go see Pieces just gone live, go check her out. And so there's a lot of that we do just as without being asked or without asking them to join our group. It's not necessary. Those are just supporting each other, because I really feel that when there's a rising tide, all boats get lifted up, and we're not really competitors with each other. So we want to take a positive angle to that. I've been doing content production professionally since the late 90s. I did terrestrial radio back in 97, 98. And then I got into internet radio very shortly after, because it was kind of like, that's kind of fait accompli. And so from 2001 on, I've been doing internet radio pretty much solidly since then. And it's been awesome. I mean, I started on Twitch almost 4 years ago, and I was inspired by the Stowe content creators and the other content creators for other games to step up and try to do something similar, to try and be part of that community. When I see a community of positive, forward-thinking people that are there to lift each other up, and just being generally awesome, and hey, check out how to be better at this game, check out how to do this a little differently, check out all the different ways that you can have fun. I want to be a part of that. That's why I started doing content creation on Twitch. But now I've branched out a little bit, so I'm on YouTube and Facebook and a few other places.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being a part of this conversation this afternoon. And last but certainly not least, Ruin, thank you for being a part of it. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi. All right. Well, as you said, I'm Ruin. My content is basically screenshot edits. Ever since I started playing Star Trek Online, since 2014, I've been taking screenshots of the game because, I mean, have you seen that game? It's freaking gorgeous. But literally, losing my articulateness here. It really started growing in 2016, a couple years after I started playing, that I started taking it more seriously. I started, utilizing the fact that I own Photoshop and, making them prettier, even though it's already very pretty. A lot of my focus has gone towards ships. I've always thought the ships in Star Trek were wonderful. I've always been very fascinated by them. And it has ultimately led to me joining a ship talking podcast this March 2021, where I had major imposter syndrome. I was like, these people, like, they're talking to actual people who make ships. Sometimes we even talk to actors from Star Trek. And I was like, look, I just take pictures of them, man. I don't know. Why am I here? But I am absolutely, blooming where I'm planted. And I'm loving ships. It's becoming a part of my personality now, so I'm happy to be here.
Well, thank you so very much for being a part of it. It's you offer some amazing, beautiful artwork, and it's great to hear you on Ship Talking Pod. So again, thank you all for being a part of this. And hey, if you're watching live right now, be sure to share and retweet this event. There's a handy share button there on YouTube that you can use to put this on all your social media channels. Let everybody know that we're having a great conversation about community today here with some amazingly talented people. All right, so before we jump into some of the heavier topics, Q, you talked a little bit about this already, but how do you currently engage with the Star Trek community as a whole? For example, what events do you hold? How often do you live stream or publish content? Peace, how about I turn it to you?
So I did take a break from STO for a bit after I finished most of the main story missions. And after that, I was like, I'm still missing Star Trek on my streams. I need it integrated more. So then I turned to the only Star Trek series that I still haven't seen, DS9. So we started watching that every Tuesday. We watch 2 episodes on Twitch because they have the watch parties now.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, nice.
It's kind of hit and miss because if you're in a certain region that doesn't have it, you can't watch it. So it's but for those that do get to show up and watch, like I feel a lot more bonded to more of the community because of it, because some of them have seen it, some of them are also watching it for the first time. So it's a really nice experience to share with everyone.
Oh, great.
That sounds so fun.
It is.
Yeah. And it's a nice feature that Twitch, has instituted, because it's linked up to like Amazon Prime or something like that, right? And so you can watch whatever Star Trek is currently on Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
Kat, why don't you tell us a little bit about the Armada and how the Armada engages with the community?
Oh, okay. So, yeah, we have both KDF and Fed side, full armadas. I can't remember last count, at least 2,000 members. I don't know how active, people are, or how many, like me, I have 40 something characters. So, I mean, I don't know if those numbers, pan out, but whatever. There's a lot of people playing the game. So we have in-game chat, we have weekly live streams, we have weekly events within the Armada, we have yearly events, that we do every year. We love giving back to all the members because they contribute to the fleets, they help other members. It's just a really nice, helpful community, I think. Especially, people come in, they hadn't played in a long time. And, it's really nice to see people being so helpful.
And for people who might be watching who may not be gamers, what is an Armada? What is a fleet?
It's like a guild if you play any other games, but it's just a group of people that you band together, and you have certain projects you can work on as a group, that give you certain benefits in game, or special equipment or weapons that you can buy because you're part of this group. It's just a really fun, extra thing you can do in game. I mean, Star Trek Online, you don't have to play with people, but if you if you want some extra stuff, you can join. You don't have to contribute. You can just hang out and lurk. So we have a lot of those types of players, and that is fully okay. You don't have to engage with people if that's not your game style. But we have a fair amount of really active, voice chat active, website active folks out there, and we appreciate all of them.
Nice. Alan.
I've been struggling with this question for a week now. Everyone else here is like really great personalities, and they're in front of a mic a lot of the time. And unfortunately, with my content creation, it's me alone behind a monitor editing for hours. So, I don't really feel like I engage that much with the community. Like I wish I could do, but it's really hard. And so I try to work in community stuff, and I finally got around to it this year, where I did, I think it was either 2-part or 3-part video of cinematic of community memberships from Star Trek Online. And I think the first one was 15 minutes long, 5 different music tracks. The next one was just a little bit shorter than that. So that was really the only way I could really find a way to really bring the community together, because one thing people really love that I found is when their own ship that they've personalized is featured. And like I'm not Paramount or anything like that, but seeing your own ship on screen is a pretty cool thing. So being able to do that, I think the total number of submissions I had was, I think for that one was 75 players.
Wow.
And I got to work on the Klingon one, which I haven't started yet, and that one is 47 players for that one.
Wow.
Lucky Star Trek number.
I mean, everyone wants their motion picture moment of their own ship, right? I mean, I've always worked really hard making my ship look just right.
Yeah. So unfortunately, like I try and live stream when I can. I tried doing cinematic and live streaming at the same time, and it killed me. It just it was bad. I burned out hard. So the only times I really live stream is when new content comes out to Star Trek, when new content comes out to Star Trek Online, and I try and play that on there, and that's my opportunity to really talk with people live. But it's I have a hard time trying to find a way to bring community together with what I do, and I feel bad for it sometimes, but it is what it is.
It can be a bit of a full-time job. You know, there's no reason to tiptoe around it. It's not a simple like I'm just gonna tweet today. You know, like it can get a little complicated.
Yeah.
Q. Oh, by the way, Alex, nice 47 call there. Nice.
I was waiting for.
I have like a 47 radar.
Nice.
Ooh, I see it.
Q, was there anything you wanted to add? I know you touched a little bit on this during your introduction, but
well, I mean, I feel like the Star Trek community can be it's I would say there's a difficulty about how you engage with the Star Trek community because it can go south so quickly. But I feel like in my community, at least in the channel, the chat, the denizens of my Discord, for example, we try to keep it positive and respectful. And once I just say, like, I don't forbid topics at all. Like, religion, politics doesn't matter to me. As long as we don't attack each other personally and we debate the issue and not the person. And that's really like the fundamental approach that I take. At least try and raise the level of debate, to crib a quote from The West Wing. To try and raise the level of debate so that it's not going to descend too deeply into, well, you suck, no, you suck. Well, then you've lost the high ground, right? And I feel like engagement is so tricky these days because you can say the wrong thing if you're not thinking about it too hard, or even when you're not even intending to say the wrong thing, it still comes across, differently. Or if somebody really has it out for you, I feel like as content creators, it's difficult. We always have to, like, I don't know about everybody else here, but I definitely like parse what I'm saying before I say it. Sometimes that kind of delays my reaction a little bit, even especially in a live stream. And so it's really, and I just feel like sometimes it means I can't be who I want to be, but I've kind of come to grips with that. I've kind of come to a happy place with that. And so I think tempered by the years of experience that I've had on the radio, but radio, although is a live stream, there's no engagement. Like you're just talking out to an audience, and there's not really a reciprocal aspect to it. Live streaming is such a completely different animal for me. But when I see other content creators do it, like when I'm in Piece's stream and I see her engaging with Star Trek, I'm like so elated that someone like her is embracing the whole thing and doing the cosplay and doing the raps and doing the, like, even when she's a fish, she's still, she's still engaged, engaging. It's so amazing. And then it's just, I don't know, it's just so much fun, and it's something that I want to be a part of. And I'm hoping that as content creators, and I feel like with Steph and in the Ship Talking Pod and even Priority One, there's that level of engagement and community and passion that you want to help channel and perpetuate, because I feel like that's really what Star Trek is all about. Right. But when people get negative and they start talking about different aspects or what they don't like and start gatekeeping, you kind of want to say, well, like, don't. I almost, like, there's a line from Rick and Morty that I love. It's from the 3rd season where he goes, "Don't tell me how to like things." And I kind of get that way on stream, where I'm like, don't tell me how to like Star Trek. And I get a little indignant about it, but it's a defense of those that there's certain aspects of Star Trek I don't like, but I don't necessarily say, well, if you don't like this aspect, then you're not really a Star Trek fan. Like, why would you say that? I feel like, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I was gonna say my favorite line is, "Every breath I take without your permission brings me."
Yeah,
that's my favorite line.
Boosts my self-esteem. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So you always have to have that level. You have to have a certain level of self-confidence to be able to do what you do. But like I said, when I'm in, I listen to Ship Talking, and it's awesome, and it taps into the type of I hesitate to use the word nerdiness, but I feel like that's where I feel like, oh, this podcast gets me. Like that's
Right.
the like I love talking about starships. But then by the same token and channeling and tapping into that same aspect of my fandom, that's the level of positivity and heart swelling and goosebump inducing that when I watch Zeph's videos, when I see like those pan shots and then you try to do it yourself in demo record and then you realize how difficult it is, and then my respect level just shoots right through the roof, you know. Like, and it's same with build videos. When I look at like Augie's build videos or Stu's build videos and I try to put one together myself and I'm like, oh, this is really hard, holy crap, my god. And I go over and I'll be like, props, man. I do not like, so it's like walk a mile in the shoes, you know.
Right.
A little bit. So it's like I have mad respect for all the content creators that step up, actually produce prodigiously like that. I'm like, I sometimes I struggle with just doing a live stream, but yeah. So I would say that's my level of engagement with the Star Trek community, is interacting with people like you.
Excellent. Well, thank you. Yes, this is an incredibly talented team. I had tried, Nick, you know, seeing you in like the Picard and the Borg. I had toyed with doing that Klingon thing for a while. Yo, but 45 minutes to put on makeup to do a video? No.
Worth it.
Worth it. Yeah, fun. But man, it was hard. And my skin was like peeling off from like rubbing off the glue. It was, so yes, more power to you. More power to you.
Yeah, when I was doing the Borg Queen, that like getting the mask off afterwards was just like I was peeling my face.
Oh my god.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh god.
There's your VOD
I draw
content, by the
line at
way.
Yeah.
Hey Zeph, you and actually, Peace, you might want to bring up your gain a little bit more. It's a little low.
More?
Yeah, a
Okay.
little bit more. Especially you, Zeph, too. All right, so before we
You didn't
address,
ask me. You forgot me.
oh my God, I'm so sorry, Alex. I'm so sorry. Please.
I'm
go
not
ahead.
letting you forget about me.
No, go ahead.
Yay,
No, by
well
all means.
done. Well
Look, guys,
done.
I am so sorry. I have I'm keeping an eye on the YouTube and the chat
No.
and Twitter, so I'm so
Not
sorry. Please,
blaming-
by
not
all
blaming
means,
you.
jump in and call me out on that.
Well, a lot of my engagements stuck pretty much to Twitter. It's kind of become my home. I started out on Tumblr. There is a Star Trek Online community on Tumblr, but I feel like it's very hard to engage people there like it is on Twitter. And, you know, I was talking about this before we went live. My internet is horrible, so live streaming is not really an option for me.
Oh.
But it's okay. I struggled with the live stream kind of, you know, presence and personality for a while. I'm kind of getting it back with podcasting, but it's a bit different. But you know, with respect to the actual content that I produce and publish, I just put it on Twitter. I don't really have a schedule because I'm a grad student and I work like a real job. So it can be hard to kind of juggle the those real life obligations with, you know, this fandom online kind of presence that I've got. But it's a very important part of who I am. And I feel when I don't have time to, you know, edit screenshots or even just play the game, I feel like I'm missing a part of myself. I really need to have some kind of creative outlet at all times. And this is a really easy creative outlet. So, you know, even though I don't have a consistent schedule, I do post stuff and I tweet a lot.
Yeah. You know,
In terms, oh, go ahead.
I was going to
Sorry.
say, you bring up a good point. Is that, you know, turning this into a full-time gig is either not easy or damn near impossible, right? Something that could pay the bills, right? And so,
and this is not going to pay the bills for me.
You know, and so I think for most of us at least, you know, we're all, you know, we juggle real life responsibilities in addition to the content that we create. So yeah, no, that's a really good point. Something that, you know, is important to remember.
Mm-hmm. And then even with like the podcast, when I started, when I joined up, it's not that huge of a commitment, but it's also a significant commitment of my time. We'll sit for hours and just do batch recordings, and, you know, it's very fulfilling, but it also takes time. And so, you know, we try to publish at least since our hiatus, since we came back from the hiatus, we try to publish a full episode every 2 weeks, and a shuttle scuttle or one of our shorter episodes every Monday. We've also got the Hero Collector podcast, but that's all Brandon. So, but we do have a regular content publishing schedule on that. So yeah.
Excellent. All right, so before we address how COVID might have impacted our content or online communities, let's first talk about the way in which other important events have impacted the community and how the community got together to support one another. For example, one thing that immediately comes to mind is when a Star Trek actor has passed away. Have any of you had an opportunity to join with the community during these, in-game gatherings that happen, for instance, on Star Trek Online? I think back when Leonard Nimoy passed away, Aaron Eisenberg. Q, I saw you nod your head. What was that experience like?
Well, you mentioned Leonard Nimoy, and my that day was so. This was before I was a live streamer. I was actually the communications director for a large Star Trek fan club, actually the oldest Star Trek fan club on the planet. And I woke up to the news because somebody from the media contacted me and asked me for a comment about the passing of Leonard Nimoy, and I didn't even know that he had passed away. So that's how I found out.
Oh.
I woke up and this PA from a news program called me and said, "We really want to comment from your club about the death of Leonard Nimoy." And I'm like, "He died?" That was my reaction. I was like, "Really?" And so I said, "Can I get back to you, please? Because I've got nothing. You just told me just now." And that was what was waiting for me on my cell phone. So the whole day I was just going from interview to interview to interview. I was on like CBC, I was on CBS radio, I was on like local channels, I was just like everywhere. And the whole day I didn't have time to really think about it or grieve or even get into Star Trek Online to go to Vulcan, where I heard that the memorial was already taking place and people were there with just commiserating. And I didn't have an opportunity to do that until 2 days later, and it really sucked for me because I just didn't have a time to process everything, and so I had to write a statement. I had to get it vetted. I had to, it was just really crazy. But it was because it was so bizarre. I was in limos because they were shuttling me to studios all over the place for remotes. And I was looking at, my wife was coming with me, and I was looking at her. This is the craziest day. Like, this has got to be the most bizarre day of my life right now. That I'm in a limo to a studio over like here, and then another limo picked us up at that studio and took us because it was funded by a different. And I'm just like, this is the most bizarre day. This is the craziest day. So that's the one. That's like the strongest memory that I have of Leonard Nimoy's passing, was just that impact and just having to read the same statement over and over and over again.
And so you were already a part of a club. You had a community. You weren't yet live streaming, but what was that community's response? Your fellow community members. How did you support each other?
So it was a lot of crying. There was a lot of tributes. I would say each chapter did their own tribute. I remember that pretty distinctly. Ours was a gaming chapter, so it was mostly everybody was in Star Trek Online, and they were with the general community, with the general Stowe community. And I have to say, just as a shout out, there are a lot of communities out there, and I'm not trying to put one down over the other, but I have to say the way that the players in Star Trek Online celebrate the life of actors who've had such a tremendous impact on us is honestly second to none. I've never seen anything like that, even being in the fandom as long as I have been. When Aaron died, and when Renee died, and when Christopher Plummer died, it was just it's just been amazing to see the outpouring of support. We like Space Nine, I think, I don't remember how many instances there were, but there were like 100 plus
Hundreds.
instances on Deep Space Nine, and we were all up at Quarks, and everybody had the torch, and we're all talking about Nog, or we're talking about Odo, or we're just celebrating, and it really just it it's so impactful. I just want to thank everybody for that. I don't know that this is the right platform to do it, but I just remember feeling like it helped so much to have that community band together. And I don't know why it's more impactful for me to do it through Star Trek Online than it was when I had like people physically there. But it just felt stronger um, when we did it on Quarks, when we did it in game. I don't know. I really don't know what to say about that, but that it was just so awesome.
Kat, how about you? With with the passing of these big actors like Leonard, Aaron, how did the Armada support each other? How did the Armada celebrate the life of these actors?
I mean, what we did, it wasn't really Armada specific. We all went to Quarks. We all went to Vulcan. It wasn't just, you didn't really feel like it was just it was everyone. It's the whole game, so everyone got together. It didn't feel like, oh, this is just, we're just hanging out with Priority One. That felt more even like you're so much part of a greater community. So while in voice chat, favorite episodes, really agree, celebrating the LIFO, because, they mean so much to you as you watch, these characters go through what they go through. So again, it doesn't feel, when this stuff happens, again, you just go as an entire community, not just a small part of one. You just feel part of something greater.
You're here. Peace?
I mean, I wasn't really around when any of this happened. Like I said, I didn't really start content creation until like 2.5 years ago.
Right.
So I didn't really, like, I had my family, obviously, who are also very big Star Trek fans, but yeah, I didn't really get to have that kind of experience online with everyone when all that happened.
Got it. Zeph?
Yeah, move the mic closer. I feel bad for saying this, but celebrity passing has always felt kind of weird to me. And even with, I kind of just suffer in silence and find an outlet as best as I can to deal with like how I feel about it. I didn't grow up on TOS. Like, I knew of the importance that Spock had to the community, and like it did kind of like hit, like it's like, hey, this is like, it's a sign of times moving on, and this is something that I'm gonna have to get used to, and part of like me growing up, right? So for that, I just kind of, I didn't really do too much. I went to Vulcan with people and did a couple of screenshots, and I didn't really do much. Aaron Eisenberg, that was a little bit more different. I had interactions with Aaron Eisenberg, like on Twitter and before, and so that one hit a little bit. So for that, I didn't really participate. Like, I didn't go to DS9 for, I didn't want to deal with zone chat or trying to find an empty instance to get in, or try and like team up and get in with my, like, I didn't want to deal with any of that. So what I did is I made a Captain Nog video with the ship that he's captain of in Star Trek Online, and took one of the quotes from the What We Left Behind documentary and threw it in at the end, and then curled up into a ball and just hugged myself a little bit, because I'm like, holy crap, that's okay, that hit me, right? So but yeah, I've always just kind of been I'm usually one who kind of pulls away when times are tough, and I'm trying to fix that, but that's what I did for that stuff.
Well, your videos are certainly respected, especially like the one for Aaron. So thank you for that.
Right.
Alex.
Well, it's kind of weird. For Renee, Plumber and Aaron. I don't remember exactly spending that much time on those memorials. I think I kind of had an experience like Zeph. You know, I had some interactions with Aaron on Twitter, but not to that same degree. It hit hard, and I was like, my first instinct wasn't really to get into the game. I think partly because of my school and work situations at the time, it was like I just didn't have the energy to do it. But Nimoy was completely different. This is kind of a funny story. I got my wisdom teeth out the day that he died, and so I was like, I'm like super squeamish, so I was completely sedated. um, when I came to, I was in the car, I was being driven home. I noticed that one of my friends had texted me while that procedure was going on, and he gave me the news. He's like, "Dude, Leonard Nimoy just passed away," and I'm like super loopy. My mouth's full of gauze, and I defined ugly crying that day. Like it was bad. I felt like crap. And that same friend, he was a huge Star Trek Online player at the time. He was like, "You, if you feel up to it, you should come to Vulcan. This is pretty crazy. There's a ton of people here." And I felt horrible, and I still got in game, and I was there, and it took a long time for me to process what was going on. But I feel like having that kind of community interaction really helped. And you know that this was before I really started to become who I am in the community right now. I didn't really consider myself anybody. I was just, me. I just played. But I think that was really one of my first doses of like a big community event, and it was helpful in processing what happened. So
Well, one thing to keep in mind is that sometimes it's not just the actors, right? Sometimes it's a member of our own community, a friend who's a part of it, a fleet mate or whatnot. Have any of your communities come together to celebrate the life of a member who might have passed? Zeph?
So this one sticks out really hard in my head, and this one I couldn't keep inside. So I started off. Oh, I got heavily involved with role playing within Star Trek Online and made a lot of great friends. This is before Alan became Zeph Films, and I had befriended somebody, and we had become really, really good friends. And I knew that they were suffering with depression and that, and then they just you know how friends get into like little fights and stuff like that, and there was a disagreement about something, because that's what happens in role play. You guys aren't playing cowboys and Indians properly. Stop it. So the person, my friend, had gone offline for a really long time, and it's like I was starting to like kind of be like, this is not normal, and it went on for a couple of months, and then just one day I remember, I think it was like 2017 of like 2016 of January, somebody we were in not Discord, what TeamSpeak.
TeamSpeak?
Yeah. And they're just like, "Yo, Alan, this person's roommate like tracked us down on Stowe, and they committed suicide." And that was just rocked me to my core. Like I started questioning like if it was something I had done, and so I did something within the role play to kind of like write off this person's character in like kind of like a really glorious but sombering way. And I don't even remember what the original question was now, but we kind of had like, we made our own like little we ran events and had a GM for that and told the story and all that, and we ran the event for them. And I think I even made a trailer for when New Dawn was announced, and I thought it was going to be all about exploration. So
Oh, yeah.
I took the person's ship. They used the Vesta ship. It was the USS Toby Russell was the name of the ship, and I put their ship as like kind of sailing away, kind of like my own little tribute to them. So
Oh.
that was, yeah, that's my experience with yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing. Anyone else have a story? I mean, I know I'm moderating, but I do remember one of our fleet mates, Airborne, had taken his life, and he was incredibly active. I think this might have actually been before Winters and I teamed up to have the Armada be the Priority 1 Armada. And he was incredibly active. I mean, one of the most active members, constantly tweeting, constantly involved, constantly talking, supporting, newer members, helping them, get through the ranks and supporting them in game and teaching. Really robust kind of guy, and he took his own life, and we were made aware via his family. And so we got together. Actually, Cookies. I think I saw Cookie in the chat. She might remember. We got together on in Star Trek Online at Starfleet Academy. I think at that time all they had was the Eternal Flame. And we held a memorial service. We got together as a community to celebrate this person who we knew virtually, and we were there for each other. Right, to honor this guy's life, to honor Airborne's life, and remember him for who he presented to us, and support one another. And it's something I still remember and kind of hold close, to this day. But it goes to show how, even though we are all miles apart, can be miles apart. I think there's a meme I've seen out there. It's like, all my closest friends live in Narnia, like that's how it is. All my Star Trek friends live in Narnia or something like that. How much we can support each other, right? How much during difficult times like that, especially if a fleet mate passes or whatnot, that we can get together and celebrate their life in one way, shape, or form. So yeah, thank you all for sharing. All right, let's shift conversations a little bit to New Trek, because that's everyone's hot topic. So how has New Trek and when I say New Trek, I mean from Discovery to today. How has it influenced? I know that New Trek might offend some people. For some reason, some people hate the term New Trek. I don't know. I'm not exactly sure why. It's technically new.
Why don't we call it the golden era?
Well,
The Renaissance.
how about the Paramount Plus era of Trek? Whatever, do that. The streaming.
Well, it predates Paramount Plus, but I like golden era because there's so many. We've never had a golden era. Signifies when there's a plentiful amount of whatever it is that you're talking about, like in comics or baseball. And to me, this is the golden era because we had never before have we had this many series running simultaneously. It is our cup runneth over. Like, this is fantastic. And thank you, Marvel, for leading the way on showing that we can have this many of an IP at all at once, because I really feel like the MCU kind of kicked open the door for like, hey, have 4 movies in a year, here have TV shows, here have all this. And so now everybody's jumping on the bandwagon. Of course, CBS was like, well, we've got this Star Trek IP, why don't we do something with it? And so I was like, hell yeah, let's do it. Like let's get on board. So I'm like really grateful that we've got Discovery, we've got Picard, we've got Lower Decks, we've got Strange New Worlds coming. I'm so excited for that. I really feel like in terms of my content right now, mostly it's holding back on spoilers. That's been my problem.
Right.
We were talking about Lower Decks this week, and I think that the thing that's influenced my content is that for years we really haven't had to worry about spoilers. There was a big dearth, and the dearth was filled. That void was filled by Star Trek Online. And one of the things I think my first visit at Cryptic, I went up to some of the devs, and I said, "You guys were custodians, basically, of Star Trek for so long. You guys filled that void, that gap of new content by producing all these amazing missions and pushing the envelope a little and having fun with the canon and all, in very much the same way that I feel that Lower Decks has fun with the canon, and sort of pushes the envelope or tries to make some callbacks, a lot of callbacks. I was talking to Gecko about Measure of Morality being like that. Actually made me cry. That was
Same.
yeah, those two missions in the 10th anniversary brought me to tears.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. But I would say that obviously the dialectic has changed, because now we're dealing with things like woke Trek, or people pejoratively talking about Discovery and Picard and as woke Trek, which I feel like, well, Star Trek has always been woke. Like Star Trek has been
Yeah.
that way from the very beginning. If you look at TOS, it's always been like that. But I feel like there's other discussions to be had there that are interesting to me, if only because my empathy wants to see things from their point of view so that I can understand them a little bit better, and maybe just a little bit in my own small way kind of expose them to the positive side of why Discovery is amazing, why Picard really, I think explores that character in a different light, because characters are supposed to grow with time. We're not trapped in amber, right? We all evolve. We all, hopefully, our experiences guide us. And I feel like Star Trek is essentially what was, remember, in the motion picture, the human adventure. This is, if there's anything that's human, more human than this, I don't know what it is, but I feel like it's a metaphor, for what we're all going through. And now in this day and age, we're dealing with COVID and all sorts of world events, that there's a tie there that I just can't let go of. So I feel like that's how it's guided my content, the way that I represent it.
Peace. So you've said that you started about 2 years ago or so, right? Which is roughly around the time we started getting new Trek like Discovery and whatnot. How what going into it, being aware that there was going to be new Star Trek, being produced and whatnot, how did that influence your development of your community? How did it influence the development of your community?
I mean, it didn't really near the start of it. Like, honestly, up until like maybe a year and a half ago, like my channel's always been Star Trek themed, but it's been more heavily like Star Trek within the past year and a half, just because there's been all this new Trek. Like, I'm not the biggest fan of Picard, even though he is my favorite captain. I still enjoy the series. I have some issues with it. That's fine. I love that Q can put a positive spin on absolutely everything. That makes me really happy. Like,
Very unlike a Q, right?
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I still enjoy all the new content. I think it's getting a lot better. And I don't think I'll ever take that away from the content that I put out there at all.
Do you find it difficult to moderate conversations and debates about, the latest episode?
Sometimes. And I say that because there are moments when I am trying to play Star Trek Online and I get people in there that just want to come in and debate like old Trek versus new Trek. And I'm like, okay, make your point. Don't be so negative. But yeah, okay, you can go now. I'm just trying to enjoy the game. So I try to limit the conversation when I feel it's like going down a very negative path, but can only do so much.
Have you had moments where you engage, and have just like a dedicated time to talk about like the latest episode? And how do you encourage your fans to maintain that respectful discourse if they happen to have a difference of opinion?
I mean, I haven't really had a dedicated time for like new Trek coming out, mainly because everyone's watching it at different times, and they're like, "Oh no, don't talk about it. Spoilers." I'm like, okay, well, So we mainly stick to like Discord conversations if we're really going to talk about it. Like I have separate channels for Star Trek Online and then just Star Trek series. So if there is going to be talk about it, we mainly stick to Discord instead of doing it live.
Do you find you have to moderate quite a bit and be like, yo, tone it down a little bit? It's a fictional television series.
Not so much in the Discord. No, everyone's pretty respectful in there. So,
good.
yeah.
Good.
Alex, how about you? What what changes might have you noticed over the years, especially with new Trek coming out within the community? And do you find that you have to moderate a little bit? And if so, how do you kind of encourage that respectful discourse?
Well, I think a perfect way to start this discussion is I am a bit of an open book with respect to my opinions on new Star Trek. I'm wearing crossfield earrings and a lower decks uniform, so you can see where I like the new Star Trek. I've definitely noticed some issues though in the community. I love Discovery. A lot of my edits have been of the Crossfield and the Crossfield refit. I love those ships. I love the era, love the aesthetic, everything. It's okay if people don't like it. I'm okay with that. I will occasionally get somebody coming on my stuff, especially on DeviantArt. They'll be like, well, that's not real Trek and blah, blah, blah. And you can have that opinion, but is it really appropriate to have a debate on, the focus is on my art? And, then that leads to another discussion, a whole other can of worms, a whole other stream over whether, art can and should always be a forum for debate. And I'm not going to get into that. But I do have a bit of an anecdote. If you're not familiar with DeviantArt, you can give people like these meaningless badges called llama badges. It just is like, here, hey, have a llama. Some people take it way too seriously. Oh, no. And I had this person come onto my profile once and they said, I was going to give you a llama badge for the quality of your work, but then I saw that you post fake Star Trek ships. I will not give you a llama as long as you post this. And I was like, not the llama badge? I don't know how I can live without this llama badge from this random person who's obsessed with Dune for some reason. I'm not going to judge, but, and like they even admitted to me that they had never watched the new series. And, I was still pretty new to having this kind of experience interaction with community. And so I tried to talk to them and I said, well, if you haven't even watched it, why do you have this opinion? You're adopting the regurgitated opinion of somebody else who built their platform on YouTube by being reactionary and hateful just for ad revenue. Why can't you develop your own opinion and be your own person? And they just went off on me. They didn't even read it, and so I just blocked them. And that's kind of the approach that I've kind of taken from now on. Like, if you can't be an adult, if you can't respect other people's likes and dislikes, if you can't if you can't live without yucking somebody's yum, I'm not going to treat you like an adult. I'm going to block you. I don't have time for you.
Yeah.
I'm trying to enjoy things. So it's definitely a thing.
I remember several years ago, when Priority One was, first starting, that we did everything to avoid blocking, even if people got belligerent. There was this, and it wasn't just us. It was the unspoken Twitter rule. Like, if you wanted to try to develop and enhance, your brand in any way, don't block anyone. You can't block. Yo, did I get over that? But here's the thing: is at its core, right? This conversation is about community, right? And our involvement and our ability as influencers and content creators to elevate the community. Alex, like you said, it's okay to not like it, right? If we're having a conversation about new Trek, it's okay for someone to not like it. You don't like the way they did the dilithium sync in this recent update? That's okay. Right? Yeah. But what happens is that people get really brave behind their keyboard and either say very negative things or don't say enough, right? Sometimes it's that one-hit tweet of, this sucks, right? And which doesn't help elevate the conversation. So I present the question to you. What is your advice to the community, to members of the community who may not like something that you do, or may not like something that somebody else does who you support, you know? What is some advice that you can offer to help elevate the conversation so that it doesn't degrade? Anyone want to raise their hand on that one?
I
Alex.
think it kind of goes back to what I was just saying. Like, try to form your own opinion. It's okay to, you know, have your opinion informed by other people, but if you really want to, you know, contribute, think for yourself. Try to, even if you don't think you'll like it, just give it a try. It's like food, you know? That's all I have.
Anyone else?
I don't know. I mean, I do have an opinion, but I don't know that it's gonna be popular. and actually, it's ironic because that's exactly
Hot
what I'm
take
talking
time.
about.
Hot take
It is
time.
a bit. We've been pretty isolated for a long while now. I know this is getting into the COVID talk, but I think that there's relevance here about opinions informing. And as I said before, I'm very big on empathy because I want to get to know people, and I feel like the better that I get to know people, the stronger the community becomes. And it does get a little parasocial, but there's a line there of the parasociality of what we do as content creators and the communities that spring up around that content. But I feel like now more than ever, because we've been so isolated and separated and trapped in our homes sometimes, and maybe sometimes within our own minds, which can be hell for some and heaven for others, that groupthink becomes one of the ways that people find those ties that they were missing, which I feel like has really elevated communities like ours, but then also elevated communities like the negative one, because there's that desire to be edgy. Oh, I'm really edgy. Look at me. I'm as edgy as that guy over there, and that guy's popular, so therefore I'm popular by association. And I get that a lot in other communities that I'm in. I was actually speaking with a few content creators just this week that I lurk a lot of Twitch streamers that play Star Trek Online or other Star Trek content, and sometimes you can sense that they're trying to be edgy because they feel that that's what's going to get them the views, or that's what's going to get them the revenue. And on Twitch, it's all gamified anyway, so it's, you know, like, how do you get from community to affiliate to partner in the quickest way possible? And so you try different things to try and elevate your stature, and sometimes it's negative and sometimes it's positive. And I choose to be as positive as possible. But I really try my best to, this bottom line is this advice, and with all due respect to Ruin, I think it's hard. I think it's hard for some people to find their own thought process because it's all a big cacophony of voices.
You do have a
right?
point there.
There's a lot of like, we're all content creators and we're asking people to consume our content, but between the six of us, that's a lot of opinions, right? I mean, even to sort out what is your own, and so it's difficult. So I would say that my advice is, like, don't. I think there's a little to be taken. There is a balance to be sought here, and it's important for everybody to find where that balance lives, and then determine with hopefully a big sense of self-awareness, which I feel is something that has gone by the wayside a lot lately, is that we're not very self-aware anymore as maybe we used to be. And go back to that self-awareness and realize objectively, how am I coming across? Like, when I'm spouting my opinions, am I saying something specifically to make myself feel better about my opinion, or am I searching for other people to validate me? Because what if it all just comes down to they just want that validation, negative or positive? It doesn't matter. As long as if you acknowledge them, they're going to feel better about things. So when people come into my community and say, "Oh, I don't like STD," which kind of irritates me because that's a very deliberate, pejorative way to talk about Discovery, and I'll be like, "Why? What is it about Discovery that you don't like?" And we can have that discussion because it's Star Trek. It's, you know, it is what it is, and I don't mind that it pulls focus away from me because I like for the focus to be on the community.
So this is interesting because and Peace, I don't mean to single you out here, but you did mention that you weren't a big fan of the new Picard, and I am a vocally on Priority One, do my best when I don't like something to be critical, and yet I have found that it doesn't matter how thoughtful I am in my criticism, how much I structure the thought, it's hard to be critical of Trek. Do you find that to be the case?
To be yes and no. I mean, yeah, kind of.
It's okay. It's all right. It's all right. Yeah.
No, you're right. It is hard because I know when we're reviewing like Lower Decks episodes, okay, these are special. There is the question that we have standing is what would you change about the episode? I can never think of anything. I'm like, this episode was amazing and perfect. I love it all. Nothing should change. Mike McMahon, I love you. You know?
Story of my life.
Yeah. And so the question is really hard, but even with Discovery and Picard, yeah, but overall I like them, but there are definitely some things I would change. So it is a little easier to be disappointed with some stuff and yet find it really hard to criticize some other aspects. Though some people obviously don't have that problem and they want to criticize everything.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I feel as if though gatekeeping happens on both ends, right? There's the gatekeeping of, you know, this isn't Trek, which is absurd, right? There's really, it's hard to gatekeep that. And then the opposite, which is all Trek is beautiful and immaculate, and if you, God forbid, you offer any criticism, you aren't a fan, you know, like how dare you?
Right.
And so my question is, you know, where is that? How do you find that balance if you happen to be critical of Trek? How do you engage with the community that can often be polarized in both directions with very little middle?
Can I be honest?
Yeah.
I don't.
You're
honestly,
like, no,
Fair.
Sue,
the two poles that you just described, like there's the Kurtzman's been fired for the how many 47th time, and my sources and all this, and then you have the people like Star Trek is absolutely like rainbows and puppy dogs and all this stuff, and I personally think of that as toxic positivity. And then you have those people who are, and I've seen this on Twitter, who are going after the fandom menace is what we know them as, going after
I've never
them.
heard that before. That's amazing.
You've never. Oh
No,
yeah.
I don't know why I've never heard that.
Going after them and slinging insults at them. I'm like, so you're in the position of Star Trek is amazing and all this stuff, but you're taking the low road and going like, I understand that people who are PG, crapping all over
There you go.
the new Trek can infuriate you, but a show that you hold so like dear in your heart, and you hashtag We Are Starfleet IDIC, and then you go after them in the same manner that those people have gone after them. Like, so honestly, there is so many times I want to tweet something and I end up just hitting the backspace and just keeping my mouth shut, because I just don't want anything to do with the Trek community and that asset. Like it's hard to find somebody who's willing to keep an open mind and engage in a conversation that where they can objectively look at something and offer an opinion that's actually like educated and not doing the story writing's dumb. Like, I'm with Peace. I'm not a huge fan of Picard. You want to know the reason why I don't like Picard? Not enough ships. I'm a guy who thrives on ships. I hate the La Serena ship. It just looks weird to me. For me, like, I look at Trek for like a lot of inspiration for the content creation that I do, so I can like entertain the masses that I have. So Discovery has been a huge influence for that. It's introduced a whole new level of cinematography with ships and that I've drawn from and tried to learn from and use in my videos now. Picard was just like, yeah, I love I love Patrick Stewart. I'm so happy that he's back in the Trek franchise. I liked, in a sad way, the closure for Data, but it didn't. I still watched it, but it just didn't really appeal to me, and that's okay. Like, it's okay to not be okay with something, but when you have polarizing lines and you start going after each other, it's just, I don't want to be part of that. And I actually removed myself from Twitter for, I can't remember how long, because I was sick of it. That's it, really.
Anybody else want to?
Talk about yeah.
I should be the one doing
that. Sarcastic. I've never really. I've criticized Star Trek on my stream, and Picard. It's funny that we mentioned Picard because I did criticize the Picard series because I felt that there were a couple of character deaths that I felt were completely unnecessary, and I don't want to spoil too much about it because I don't know who's seen it or hasn't seen it. But there were some major supporting character deaths that were from other series, and I was like, oh, come on, really? I was very vocal about that. And to a certain extent, I agree with Zeph about, like, as I said, I'm a big Chips fan, so it was very much a character story. There wasn't a whole lot of the sparkly, glowy new ship, thing that was going on there. I didn't have as a visceral reaction to La Serena that he did. I actually thought it was a neat concept. It was very Millennium Falcon kind of feeling to it. Yeah, exactly. I still love Zeph.
See, this is how it's done.
That's
people.
okay.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, thank you for your permission, but no, I
was respecting your opinion. God, let me respect you.
Right, and that's what, fundamentally, though, that's what we got to get back to, is respecting each other and saying, okay, it's all right to, like, I have strong opinions about Voyager, I have strong opinions about Enterprise. I personally feel that Enterprise didn't hit its stride until, ironically, the last season of the show, when Manny Koto took over, and we were finally kicked free of the production team that was doing it before, but and Voyager was okay, but I just felt like it was the Doctor and Seven show, and there were so many other great character stories that kind of passed it up to focus on the Doctor and Seven, even though I love the Doctor and Seven, but but it's something that we talk about, and there are people who are diehard fans of Voyager. There are people that are diehard fans, like, and those in my community already know who I'm talking about because there's one guy who is 100% Voyager all the time in my chat. And Enterprise as well. People enjoy Enterprise, but I didn't. It's okay to be critical of Star Trek. It's okay to be critical of the things that we love. I am a baseball fan. We are super critical about our baseball teams. It's like nobody beats up my little brother but me, almost type of mentality, right? And we can be that way about Star Trek, but I feel like right now, because everything is so absolute, in not just in Star Trek, but it almost feels like it's pervaded everything we talk about. It's so absolute that if you like something and somebody has a diametrically opposed opinion about that thing that you like, that you're, depending on where your self-esteem level is, you may have a visceral reaction to it because you have to defend it. You have to defend your, like, down to the tooth and nail. You have to defend it as much as possible just to satisfy yourself. And then there are those of us who are like, oh, that's cool, be chill about it, that's all right, it's cool, like we can be friends, it's all good. At least you like Star Trek enough to have an opinion about it, like that's right. Isn't that the positive? The positive is that we have passionate people, right? But I think as content creators, there's a wide angle lens sometimes that gets placed over our fandom, and it can sometimes be really helpful to expose the things about Trek or talk about the things that we love, and sometimes the wide angle lens fries the ant. I mean, that's like this pretty much. It depends on how you use that. Yeah, it depends on how you use that lens. So I feel like there's I don't know if everybody here agrees with that responsibility, but I feel like it's part and parcel of what we do in providing a focus for that passion and coming together like that.
Trying to
Yeah.
keep things keep the conversation focused and not a
Yeah.
battleground in a way.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
And
definitely. You
one thing I
definitely
was-
want to keep the battleground status out of it. But I love talking to people with different opinions, and that's one of the reasons I love having Dr. Robert Hurt on the podcast, because
Oh,
you want to know the science reason that was not accurate. That's who you want to ask, because we're always like, "Ooh, is that even possible?" He's like, "Oh no."
Well, what's
I
great is
love
we
it.
talked to Dr. Erin Mack. We actually had her
Awesome.
on my stream, and
Oh,
she
wow.
explained all the science because she's the science consultant for Star Trek.
That's so
Um,
cool.
And
That's
she
so
talked
cool.
about like where the mycelial stuff came from or why
Wow.
this exists, and it was very eye opening. You just reminded me. I got to contact her and see if she wants to come back, because it was so awesome.
Dude, that's so
She was only
cool.
supposed to be there for like 45 minutes, and she ended up staying like an hour and a half, and we just had so much
Wow.
fun. She's never seen Babylon 5. I was like, we gotta rectify this right away. I really feel like
Wow.
someone of her background would totally enjoy a show like Babylon 5.
I
Alex,
was
did you want
just
to say something?
gonna add a point really quick
Oh, go ahead.
about liking and disliking there, especially now with the internet. So there's so many people who are like really hating on Star Trek and that. And me personally, when I was younger, I hated DS9. I hated the religious aspect of it. I hated that it was stuck on a starship, and the political part of it. It just was not something that I was into. And I grew up, and when I grew up, it decided, not decided, just so happened that, hey, you know what, this is actually enjoyable. And so I think that's another thing that people who are so quick to just dismiss Trek should also remember, that as you grow up, your tastes are going to change. And now we're living in an internet era where everything you say online is going to be there forever. And you're going to have some serious egg on your face when you're be like, I hate the Disco Enterprise, is the worst thing I've ever seen. Blah, 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 blah. And then 5 years later, you'd be like, yeah, but you know what? This is so glorious. And somebody's going to go 5 years through your tweets and pull this up and like, oh boy, this aged well. So
This you?
This year? Exactly.
So, Star Trek has never shied away from addressing important social issues. And when licensors like Modifius and Star Trek Online and others took and continue to take a stand to support marginalized groups, have any of you been able to host any fundraisers? How have those events impacted your content, your streams? Anyone want to go first?
Oh, well, I'll go first, because we just had our 500th episode and we had an amazing day. We streamed for 500 minutes. But we did a fundraiser for the Poor People's Campaign, and oh man, we had interviews with like Allison Pill, Alexander Siddig, the most amazing. It's so magical to talk to him. Isa Briones, Evan Evagora, Robert O'Reilly, and with his puppet. I mean, what an amazing day! And we raised like $4,000.
Yeah.
And then Rod Roddenberry, had matched our contributors. It was a magical day. It was so good.
Yeah. I mean, to add to that, the community involvement to make that happen was absolutely phenomenal, right? It wasn't, not only were we celebrating our 500th, but we wanted to make it, why would we raise funds for ourselves? So we did it for the Poor People's Campaign, who do amazing work on the ground, especially during the pandemic, right? Supporting communities that have been underserved during the lockdown, during the pandemic, not getting the resources that they need. And I at its core, right, these moments where these Star Trek franchise IP holders have taken a stand, there are, for the most part, it's 90%, support and amazing, and then there's a very loud 10% that go against it. we experienced that even for our 500th, raising funds for the Poor People's Campaign. What about others? What about, some of your other groups? How, when a franchise takes a stand, right? Like we had, like Star Trek also had the hashtag that they were doing, and every hashtag that was used was donated. I forget who they were donating it to. I know it was another
United Way.
United Way. It might have been. I know one of them. Yeah, one of them was United Way.
One of them. I cannot remember the name of the other one.
But they've done it twice, right? They've done it these last 2 years. How does that impact your content? And then on top of that, how does that impact the relationship with your community, right? What happens when you have a community member attack you and come at you for taking a stand in support of, Star Trek and social justice and whatnot?
Well, I know that I've participated. I've never hosted my own stuff because I don't really feel like I have my own community. I just am in the general community. So I've definitely participated in those hashtag campaigns from the Star Trek Twitter. The first thing that came to mind with this question was when Priority 1 did the blackout with respect to Star Trek Online and Cryptic and Black Lives Matter. That is I'm very politically and socially active in real life as well as online. And so that was very near to my core. And so, I'm happy to participate in those. And it matters a lot to me when the franchises and whatnot that I participate in, namely Star Trek, take a stand with that, especially taking a stand in favor of, standing up for people who are, historically downtrodden and marginalized. And so, that's really big. And going back to being respectful about our criticisms, I've definitely criticized Cryptic a lot over this regard, and, being open and clear about, supporting Black Lives Matter and, other things like that. I've definitely run into experiences where, I've blocked people over some of their reactions to the blackout. There was someone resorting to, classic transphobic dog whistles in response to why they thought that the blackout wouldn't work. And I unilaterally blocked him over that. That is not okay. I do not want that in my community. And so seeing people respond in that way has kind of made me feel like I need to be a little more guarded in my community interactions, because I don't want to get in fights, but I definitely want to foster a community that's safe for marginalized groups. So,
actually, you bring up a good point, right? I mentioned earlier how 10 years ago it was like, no, don't block. Do your best to be a community. Customer service. How do you balance standing up for these efforts versus how do I phrase this question? How do you balance standing up for it, right? How do you standing up not only for yourself but for the cause versus engaging into the void, right? Like I have this hard time, right, balancing between, okay, do I try to engage? Do I try to elevate the conversation, right? This is a community, right? We're supposed to be able to have respectful discourse with one another and explore these topics. Have you all found a happy medium when it comes to things like this? Or is it still a struggle to find the balance?
I will say that I've actually never blocked anybody on Twitter.
Wow.
Yeah, but I consider myself to be the exception rather than the rule.
Challenge accepted.
The exception rather than
Also
the rule.
not female. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I fully recognize that, and it's funny, or maybe not funny, but during the Twitch blackout, we had a disagreement, Priority 1 and I, and we were talking about that on Twitter, where I felt like the blackout was not the way to do what you wanted to accomplish, but not for dog whistle reasons or anything, because I think we're both from we're marginalized groups, I think, for the most part, represented here, and I feel like that was one of the things that there were a couple of members of my community who came out and was like, because I put the BLM hashtag on my Twitter, and they were saying, I don't remember exactly what the comment was specifically, but I remember that the end of the discussion was that they didn't know I was Latino, that they thought that I was Caucasian.
They who?
So
Wait,
when
Priority One? Or you're
Not
talking
you.
about-
No.
Oh.
I'm talking about just members of my community or former members of my community also that were like, wait, you're Latino? I didn't know that. And I don't make a big deal of it. It's not like I bring it up every time I start my stream. Hey, I'm Latino. Thanks for watching me. Appreciate you giving
Are
this
you
poor
kidding, bro?
downtrodden
I come into Priority One like they call me
know,
Cuban
right?
Pete.
Yeah, exactly.
Come on, man. Come on. You don't do that. Get out of here, bro.
I don't have the Mexican flag behind me. I don't have like La Raza all over the place, or the big Jesus candles, or whatever.
I get pissed every time somebody mispronounces La Sirena. I mean, like, come on, you don't either. Get out. Come on, bro.
Well, it's for me, it's the La Sirena that I get. Like, yeah, right. It's anyway.
From a Spanish-speaking standpoint, you don't say the twice.
Right.
Exactly. So
We've had entire discussions about this.
I remember Elio talking about this.
Ad nauseum, yes.
So I decided, I did the blackout, but I decided to raise money for Joyful Heart instead, because I felt Joyful Heart. At the time, there was, it was interesting because there were multiple issues that were going on at the same time. And one of the big issues that was getting to the forefront was the domestic abuse situation that was going on as a result of some of the activities that were going on. And I felt like not enough light was being shed on that. So I took a day out of the blackout. I still played Star Trek Online, by the way, but I still did the blackout, but I decided let's raise money for Joyful Heart because I feel like they need attention too. Not a lot of people are talking about that. Domestic abuse is I don't know why it's so stigmatized that nobody wants to talk about it too often, but I really feel in this day and age and it comes up a lot, especially, and I love that Kat brought up that I'm not a woman, and that's true, but I have 5 sisters, so I try my best to be an ally as much as I possibly can, and I've witnessed them go through domestic abuse situations as well, and so it really hits home for me, and I guess that's why I was like, let's do Joyful Heart, let's do something a little different with, and basically take a negative and try and turn it into a positive as much as we possibly can.
Well, and here's the point you brought up earlier, to have a difference of opinion. And if when you responded to us when we had the blackout, I appreciated other people's perspectives. You're saying, hey, maybe this isn't the most effective way. Well, we're at a loss. We didn't, we're upset. Everybody was upset about, it was very emotional. And you feel so powerless. You want to feel like you can do something, anything. You may not, go about it the best way, but you just feel like you're drawn to action in any way you can feel like you're contributing, so. But offering differences of opinion of, hey, maybe you didn't think of this aspect of it. Maybe you could have done something different. Those are welcome, welcome and constructive. Yes, absolutely.
That's the key. And that's part of why I blocked that guy with respect to that blackout, because his response was so reactionary and not constructive. That was just not elevating the conversation.
Yeah. I can't believe you're doing this. I'm gonna own the libs by it's just like that's really so not helpful at all, but okay, bye. Also,
we're not property. You can't own us. I don't know what to tell you.
I think there's a difference between I think as influencers and content creators, we know when someone has a difference of opinion and wants to engage, have a polite conversation about it versus just the flat out troll, right? Just the flat out troll that does need to the only thing you can do is just block. And that was that year was the year that I embraced the blocking, right? Like that year was the year that I embraced blocking, where it was okay. There's a difference between somebody who differs in opinion versus someone who's just flat out a troll, right? And who has no interest in having a conversation. I don't think we blocked you, Q. I should fix that now. No, I'm kidding.
No, but I got a follow out of it. I will say this. I feel like blocking. I feel like it's almost like dealing with children, and I don't mean to be insulting. But there is like those that throw temper tantrum or act out because they don't feel like they're getting enough attention, so they decide to do something negative in order to, like, any attention is better than no attention at all. And I feel like the block can sometimes be used in that fashion as well, which is why I usually don't use it. I try not to use it at all, I guess, is what it comes down to. On Twitter, I realize that I'm coming from a position of privilege. I fully recognize that. I'm not a woman. I don't have the, I mean, I've had stalkers, but it's the end result of the stalker situations that I've undergone. I'm sure were vastly different than those of a female content creator who may or may not have availed themselves of the same opportunities that I have. But by the same token, what works for me as a male content creator and not blocking and giving them more attention where they can screenshot the block and say, oh, look, you blocked me. Ah, ha, 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 ha. It's like, okay, well, I don't want to be associated with that in any way, shape, or form. So if they were going to continue to chatter at me from the rafters, I'd just be like, okay, whatever, man, go sit over there and do your own thing, and that's fine. But I don't necessarily, like Zeph said, just don't engage. Just try to moderate your engagement. But it's easier to say that than it is actually do it. So I don't begrudge anybody blocking anybody, and I wasn't trying to say, well, I've never blocked anybody. Like I'm better than you. Not at all. To me, just thinking about it from the empathetic standpoint, blocking just doesn't. And by the way, those of you out there in chat, please don't take this as a challenge. Please don't say it. I'm going to try and get it. It's not. I'm not trying to throw down the gauntlet or anything out there. I really not. And of course, now that I've opened the door, it's going to happen. But yeah.
So generally, going back to the community too, generally speaking, when you as content creators have taken a stand, one way or another, how do you change the message in some way, shape, or form? Do you dedicate a particular live stream? How do you engage with your audience, and how do they engage with you to support the stand that you take?
I think I try to be as genuine as possible. Yeah. Honestly, I feel like that's the only approach I've got in my anything else, and it's just not me. It's not who I am. If I feel strongly about something, like we do Extra Life every year, and even though I'm personally child free, it still is outrageous that children have to go through. That we have to raise money for children because our healthcare system is so broken. Here in the United States, that we have to raise millions upon millions and hundreds of millions of dollars just to make sure that they have an opportunity to live. That's definitely one of those stands that I take. But in terms of the political and even to religious points, again, I just try to be as genuine as possible, and I try to explain my position from my own personal experience and what I grew up with, and also I'm not in the age median for Twitch, right? I'm basically a dinosaur by comparison. Shut up, peace. I'm in my mid 40s, so I know that if I'm not 14 or 13 or 16 and playing the Twitch games, the very popular Twitch games, that I'm probably not going to get that audience. So I feel like I'm lucky in that I've attracted or cultivated a like-minded community that wants to stay positive and is around my age group for the most part, like early 30s to death, I suppose. I love Peace's reactions. Like every time I say that, I always look at her. It's so great. But it's been awesome because I can be genuine with that type of mentality and be successful at least explaining and getting. And those that don't agree, you know what? The beauty of freedom of choice is you have there's millions, and I mean 9 million streamers on Twitch right now.
Wow.
Feel free to go see somebody else. You do not
Mhm.
have to go. You don't have to stick here if you don't agree with what I'm saying. By all means, there's infinite number of streamers out there that you can go be watching right now that are going to be more like-minded with what you're looking for. So,
Peace. Yeah, Alan. I was gonna say, either one of you.
Actually, no, I'll yield to Peace if she likes to say.
No,
anything.
go ahead.
No, you go ahead. I'm
Nope.
Canadian. You're not
Well,
gonna,
yeah,
you're not going to win this
this
piece. He's
collective.
Canadian.
I'm not opinionated enough for Twitter. I never engage. I just retweet things. Like, I take Kat's approach. I'm just there sometimes, like, hi, here's some Star Trek stuff. Bye.
You like my tweets?
Here's my dog. Okay, bye.
Zeph, you were gonna say something?
So I don't know if everyone noticed, but I'm the token cis white guy of the panel, and for me, it's hard. There's times where, and I've had this conversation with Bruin. Like, Bruin and I work together a lot on demo record stuff, and we get into conversations, and I'll get into my head where I don't know what to do. I feel like there's a comedian called Anthony Jeselnik, and he has a thing on Netflix called Thoughts and Prayers. And he talks about how people, when something bad happens, people put out their one tweet, thoughts and prayers, and he'll be like, you know what that means to somebody? Nothing. Really, all you're saying is, don't forget about me and look how sad I am. And I feel like really relatable to that with a lot of things that happen that people are advocating for on social media, like Black Lives Matter and all that. And I can't help but wonder if people are just trying to get into the conversation for the brownie points. And then there's the point, as a content creator, a white cis male content creator, if people look at me that way as well, like, oh, Alan's retweeting about something about trans rights or whatever, like, is he just doing it to get that demographic? Or for me, it's like, I want to do stuff, and I've made my position, like, I put out tweets here and there, would be like, I believe everybody has the right to live the life that they want to live, love who they want to love, and be happy. Like, and I don't know how to. First off, I'm not a live streamer, so doing fundraisers is just out of the question. I have a kid, and for me to do a long live, I more prefer to be support. Like, for the 500th episode, I came in and offered my services for a prize. Like,
And thank you.
I love doing that.
Yeah.
But it's just, for me, there's the worry that I would come off as disgenuine, which I'm not trying to be, but there's also just, I don't know what to do to help. Like, I know that being a woman on social media is frightening. Like, it's, again, Lauren tells me about all of her things, and I can't believe it. And it's just, I try and be there for people, for my friends, and I don't know what else to do outside of that. And I feel bad for it, honestly. Like, I feel like I'm letting down marginalized people. I feel like women, people of color, trans groups. Like, I feel bad that I don't get more involved in it, but I don't know how. And I don't know, I feel like an idiot and bad for saying that or even asking for help, but
No, it's important that you ask for help, right? Because, I am very much aware of the privilege that I have for having fair skin as a Latino. Very well aware of it. And for me, it's about how can I use that to elevate other voices, right? How can I be a part of elevating people who don't have the same skin tone as me, but are just as cute? My uncle is darker than you, Q. And so we have that conversation of he fears getting pulled over more than I would, right? But what's important is that as a community, right, we can come together to support each other and have these conversations, right? For you, Alan, to say, you know what, I'm not aware of what can I do to support. Somebody tell me, and I will do my best to do it. That's a big thing. That's not that shouldn't be dismissed.
Yeah.
I've had that conversation with Ruin. I'm like, how can I help more? I think we both got busy or whatever, and that conversation fell off. But still,
I thought we had that conversation, but
yeah,
I'll get back to you on that.
Yeah.
but that's important, right? That as a community of Trekkies, right, that we've come into knowing each other because of the franchise. That is very, very much aware of the need for social justice. Okay, no matter how you slice it, you cannot deny it. That Star Trek has always been at the forefront of teaching, right? Of being a theater, an art form that teaches. It's important for us as a community to educate one another, to keep each other in check, to say maybe not that way, but maybe not phrased this way, but perhaps you were trying to mean something else, or running ideas past one another, the way that you, Alan, and Ruin talk, behind the scenes as you develop new projects. That's the Star Trek community that we should be proud of, right?
Right.
That it's not just among us who are live streamers and content creators, but the people in the chat, people involved who support us, who are also willing to support the causes, the missions that we believe in. Right. That's a huge thing. For me personally, it's why I've been doing it for 10 years. It's that there are people who will disagree, people who, I've had to block. But it's overwhelming how many people support, not just the show, but the same things that we support, that we believe in, like the Poor People's Campaign, like, the BLM movement, any things like that, it goes a long way in the community. It goes a long way to show the power that the community has.
Right.
And perpetuates the Star Trek philosophy.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
The ideology, which is what, when you have people that are from the opposite side of the political spectrum that are espousing the exact opposite, it sometimes can be a little draining.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right,
Well,
to have to
I
deal
think-
with that.
Well,
I think for me, and I think maybe more so for me specifically out of the six of us here, because I'm more like my face isn't out there, or my face or voice isn't really out there as like I produce stuff. I don't interact as much. So it's just like, I know me personally, I'm openly accepting of all walks of life, and I think for the longest time it's just because I don't really interact talk with the community as much as all of you do, that I recognize that I've just become comfortable with that, and it's I do my thing and then I go and live my life, and it's very aware to me of I can't even figure out the word, and
That's okay.
I don't
I
know.
wasn't sure, Ruin. It sounded like you took a breath to say something.
yeah. Well, I feel like this kind of brings up something that's been on my mind a lot, especially in the last year. I think when we love Star Trek, we've loved Star Trek outside of the gaming communities and that we're in. And I think it can sometimes be a little easy to get caught in thinking that, oh, this other person likes Star Trek. This other person's in this Star Trek community. They must somehow align with the ideologies of Trek, and they must think like me. And that's not always the case. Especially, like, if you play Star Trek Online, you probably are very well acquainted with Zone Chat. I've been playing for 7 years, and I've had Zone Chat off for 7 years. And, that's where you encounter people where it's like, you like this, you're playing a Trek adjacent game. Where is this coming from? Did you even pay attention? And so I think, you know, I've definitely got myself caught in thinking, oh, well, it's always going to be an accepting community. Oh, no, it's not.
Right.
I still love this community very much, but I have to be very careful, being a woman, being marginalized in other ways, especially I'm pretty open about being neurodivergent. And so, bigoted people definitely exist in this community, and bigoted people have definitely targeted me. And it's hard when it's in a community that you love and that means a lot to you. So, yeah, this hits home.
So, if it's all right with everybody, the last big, the elephant in the room is COVID too.
Yeah.
Actually, that's probably not. No, COVID's not the elephant in the room. It's just another one of the big topics to discuss.
One of the elephants.
One of the elephants. It's a circus in here. How has the pandemic affected your? Let's start with that. How has the pandemic affected your production style? Peace. Why don't we start with you?
I mean, it didn't. Well, I mean, I've always been a homebody. Like, I prefer staying at home. So the fact that COVID happened definitely gave me more reason to produce more content because, well, now I can't go outside anyway. So let's get everyone that's either, having a really tough time. Maybe they lost their job. They're just feeling really down. Let's get them all in and just like try and be positive, and maybe I can make them laugh. And in my Picard cosplay, maybe I could do something stupid in Star Trek Online and they'll think it's funny. So it's been a more positive experience for me this past year.
Now, even though it's you said that you're a bit of a homebody. I mean, the pandemic, one way or another, seems to have had a bit of an effect on everybody. Have you found it difficult to stay positive and have that kind of?
Oh yeah, there's been like I'm in a long distance relationship with someone that lives in Ireland, so I haven't gotten to see him in it'll be 2 years in March now. So like, yeah, I've got my own things I'm dealing with, and I get to kind of talk with the community about it because he's a big part of that as well. So like I've been fortunate enough not to lose my job because I was already working from home. So that's been the biggest thing for me, is having to deal with like there's people that I love that I'm not able to see like everyone else.
Right.
And you mentioned that the community helps with that a little bit, kind of cope with this downside of the pandemic. How are you? How do you continue to engage? Is it all through Discord? You mentioned that you'll get silly on the live streams and whatnot. How does the community respond to your positivity?
I think they really enjoy it. Like that's why I have like the cosplay goals, because they want to see more of the Star Trek stuff. They want to see me do more Star Trek raps or like the crazy things that I happen to come up with. And I just love bringing a little bit more positivity for other people that are not having, I guess, as good of a time as I am. I don't know the right way to say it, but like COVID sucks for everyone, obviously. But right. It's been really engaging. I've met so many more people this last year because this is happening. Right. I did take a break from community games just because there have been some not so positive people that I had to come into contact with. So I took a break from that, and then that's where the watch parties started. And everyone seems to be really enjoying it, and I'm having a lot of fun with it now, meeting more people that way.
Good. Excellent. Zeph, did COVID impact production on...
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest because I've been trying to like open up about it more on Twitter. I think since COVID started, it absolutely destroyed me personally as a person. Um, and that has affected my production output. I used to do a lot of videos. Like, I think fresh out of space stock per year, I'd probably put out probably around 30 cinematic videos. And that doesn't count the visual reviews of each video showing off like what it looks like in Star Trek Online. This year, I've probably done 6 or 7 videos. Last year wasn't that many, and if content creation is a very faceless interaction, especially when you're like me and you just edit videos and you don't get to have one-on-one conversations with people through live stream. So, and then the real world turned faceless with everybody being masked and everybody being having to keep social distancing. And like I'm a data center technician. That's my job for the past over 10 years, and I run a data center by myself. Like, not to brag, I'm that good. My team lead trusts me with an entire data center to like I can multitask like a mofo. So 8:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday to Friday, I go in and I sit in an office by myself. I don't have any interaction with anyone. And then with COVID, a lot of the people who can do work from home have been doing it from home. And then little Zeph came around and he was in the NICU for 2 months, and I couldn't see him at all because only one person was allowed in at a time. So it's just, I would go, I'd be at work by myself for so long, and then I'd go drive to the hospital and then drop off my, at the time, partner so she can go spend time with them. And then I'd sit alone in the car for 3 hours and then come home and then wonder when he can come home. Like, he was going through rough stuff, right? I've been open about it. He Carson is his name. He's not biologically mine, but he was born addicted. So it was just like 2 months of making sure he was being okay. So I tried to use content creation as an outlet, and it's hard. It's hard to make sure that you're okay and that you feel like you have this responsibility to entertain other people. And then I found myself, and I've realized it probably too late, that I've just ruined friendships because I was just getting into a bad place, right? So just I'm still not in a good place. I'm trying to get into a good place. I have like one best friend, and I'm not ashamed to say Alex has been my best friend. She's helped me through so much. But content creation during this time has just been so hard. And I think this is why I had so much anxiety coming on the show to talk about it, because you just, I think as people watching content creators, I think everyone here can agree that we hide a lot of stuff. We hold it in. You don't see the struggles behind the screen, and I'm 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 broken. Like, I'm so broken. So yeah, that's where COVID's been for me.
Zeph, I want you to know that everybody in the chat is reaching out to you right now. 100%. Everybody in the chat's reaching out. Wanting to hug you is really what everybody is saying right now.
Oh,
they're
that's so sweet.
first of all, I want to thank you for sharing that. You're right. I think that people forget, our audience, the community as a whole often forgets that, that there is a person behind the microphone, behind the video, behind the, the live stream. I've had the great privilege of getting to know you over the last year or so, year and a half or so. Have the great privilege of, collaborating with you on a few projects, and I am very grateful. So really thank you. Your artistic contributions, your contributions as a whole, elevate Star Trek, the Star Trek community as a whole. I think that your style, your contributions, your creativity, to take a game that has been out for 10 years and produce content that makes everybody want to go, I wish that was my ship, should not be overlooked. You are, which is one of the reasons why I wanted you here, that you are an important part in the Star Trek community, the Star Trek Online community, having videos featured on Star Trek Online's website. Even they have to admit that they can't do it as good as you. So thank you, man. Thank you. And I'm glad little Zeph's home with you.
Yeah, he's doing good. 15 months and checking all the check marks. So
there you go. You just brainwash him with all the Trek.
Yeah.
And I think the community just here in our chat, I think says a lot, right? That they not only know you, but they respect your work, right? They respect our work. Hopefully, I know it's hard. I know it's very hard, but hopefully, you can hold on to that. Hold on to the fact that you have an audience, a community, that supports you, that supports you, supports your craft, and wants to see, not just because it's a new hot video, but it's a new hot video from Zeph. That's really the key thing here. But thank you for sharing that, man.
Pleasure.
Anyone else, has anybody, had to shift their approach to content creation during COVID? Alex, you're muted. I may be able to unmute you from here. Hold on. I cannot. Oh no.
Uh-oh.
There we go. Oh.
Sorry.
There we go.
Hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
I had to switch inputs back and forth. I'm so sorry. I was saying things and I didn't even know you didn't hear me. Dang
Sorry.
it. But anyway, the pandemic started, I was looking for a new job and poof, goodbye job search. I was stuck in this job. I had just been admitted into grad school. I was going to start in the fall of 2020, and I did. Wow. I've gone through phases with content creation where that's the only thing I'm living for. And then I've gone through phases where I just can't do it. Sometimes it feels thankless. Sometimes I just don't have the energy to do it. Sometimes I get burned out on STO because that just happens sometimes. And, I want people to feel like I want people to know that that's normal. If you're going through a burnout, that just happens. It's okay. But I was definitely experiencing that, working a job I hated, especially May 2021 I had just finished my second year or my second semester of grad school completely online, working a job I hated, like I said, in the middle of a pandemic that feels like it's just going to go on forever now. And, I feel like I relied a lot on the community that I have, a lot of the friends that I've made in this community. I think I would have been able to get through it without that, but it would have been a lot different, and it wouldn't have been as good. I don't think I would have had happy of an outcome from that whole year had I not had this community. And so, like, I'm so grateful for the friends that I've made. And, I don't know what I would do without you guys. So thank you.
Thank you.
Aw. We hear from some of our members in the Armada that, some of our weekly, like our TFO Thursday, that's, the highlight of their week, that they can come and spend some time and hang out and just have fun with the game. Because yes, stow burnout is a thing, especially when there's not a lot of new content to play. But you can do activities with your friends and it still makes it feel fresh and fun and, Space Barbie all the time, So
true end game.
yes. So the pandemic has been horrible, for a lot of people, and it's really hard to maintain, keep your anxiety levels low, your stress levels. It's really impossible. I mean, you're in a constant state of so much stress that you really need an outlet, and to have some people that understand where you're coming from is really what can help keep you sane.
Theron in the chat says, I'm grateful to call a lot of you friends.
Oh, thanks, Theron.
Thank you, Theron.
Which one of us do you not call friends, Theron?
Who wouldn't want to be friends with him and his luscious Canadian ass?
Ooh, yeah, hey.
Spicy.
Q, how about you? How has it impacted your content, your community?
Well, I would say like Peace, I actually worked. I was already working remotely for since 2017 is when I switched jobs. Of course, I'm not working anymore because I got laid off due to the pandemic, I guess. So that working from home apparently does not shield you from the consequences of poor upper management decisions that result in people losing their jobs. However, like Alan was saying, content creation is an outlet, but because I think a lot of us give a lot of ourselves when we're doing that content creation, whether it's a podcast or I think that the beauty of starships that Burin brings to life with her screenshots and all of the post work that she does on it, just to highlight the beauty of starships and Star Trek Online, and Zeph taking I can't even imagine the man hours that goes into one of the Fresh Out of Space Dock videos. I can only guess it's got to be of planning and then demo record and then editing and working in, I assume, After Effects or any other application that you keep putting it through for post production. Not to mention, I mean, just the amount of Hollywood level makeup artistry that goes into Pieces cosplays. Seriously, you roll your eyes at me, but I'm dead serious when I say that. And it's just, I think about it in terms of all of that, regardless of how much fun we're having, there is a mental toll that comes with it because we're giving a lot of it. And if you're not an extrovert and you are an introvert, it's even more draining for you to be able to do that. And if you don't recognize the energy level going a lot quicker for somebody who is introverted versus somebody who's extroverted and gets energy from that activity, then it becomes even more impressive to me that level of work is being done on a regular basis. And even though, yes, I mean, we all take hiatuses, we have to recharge the batteries, we have to take stock, we have to sit back. And I think that's something that maybe a lot of people in the community don't understand, if only because we don't talk about it enough. I feel like that's something that doesn't get a lot of mention because maybe we've got a lot of pride in what we do and we don't want to admit to having those weaknesses, and so it's really difficult, which is why, Alan, I can't even tell you how much how emotional it was for me to hear you talk about your experiences, and it just, I don't know, I don't even have the words. I mean, I've never been where you've been, but it was so it was very wrought for me. I mean, I knew a little bit. I know we've talked in the past, and I've known scads, a scan about information. But to hear you talk about it like that, I feel like it's a culmination of that mental health that we have to keep on as content creators. We have to be aware that there has to be some boundaries set in terms of looking after our own mental health before we give way too much of ourselves, and then we crash and burn, and we have to exit stage left. We went a little too far. So I'm thankful that the community, for the most part, can sense that sort of thing. And I have those discussions on Discord, or I'll have those discussions in chat where they say, "Look, you're looking a little tired. You're looking a little, like, have you taken a break lately?" Or they'll say, "Let's take a break," or they'll say, like, "Let's get," even the down to the check your posture and hydrate and all of that. Even though those are interactions, but I feel like it still comes from a positive place where they're looking after you in some way, shape, or form. And those are the awesome parts of our community that I want to embrace more and more. And that's, to me, that's the motivator. Like, even through COVID, I think I said this on my Discord at the beginning of the year, because I do like a state of the stream type of thing, and I usually told everybody that it's really difficult. It's super difficult that there's so many ways to reach out, but not a lot of people know how to do it. Like, they don't know what's appropriate or what's inappropriate. And I always say that it doesn't matter to me what method you choose, as long as you do it, as long as you say something. I think I said that on Twitter. Any type of engagement makes our days, right? Any type of positive engagement is going to make your day. I did one build video last year. It was so tough. And this last week, I was in a pug run for TFO on Ground's Bug Hunt, and I noticed that me and another member of that team were using the exact same build, which happens to be the only build video that I did. And he reached out on team chat and said, "Hey, did you get it from that video about this ground build?" And I was like, "Well, that was actually my video." It was my video that I did. I don't know if you can see my @handle, but it's Kusaku. And he's like, "Oh my god!" He's like, "This build revolutionized ground I hated ground in Star Trek Online until I put this together for the first time. It was so easy because I'm not using like super high level components to do it. I'm using event gear and mission props and a couple of lockbox things, but they were just so like gushing about it." And I was beaming the whole day. I talked about it on Twitter. I was like, it was so amazing to have somebody reach out. I said it was a Augie moment, because Augmented Dictator Games gets that occasionally, where he'll be like, like somebody will reach out to him and we talk about it, and it gives him energy and stuff. And I was like, oh my god, I totally get it now. Like, I understand what you're talking about. And I said, if you love a content creator's content, don't hesitate to tell them how much you love their content. Trust me, it boosts them. It'll send them over the moon. Because that's even though we talk about subs and we talk about patronages and we talk about bits, we talk about cheers and tips and all that, I feel like the real currency is that positivity. I feel like at the end of the day, money's money, but your emotional health and your mental health and things that contribute to your positive mental health, that's the real currency of content creation.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I remember a few years ago at Vegas, I had the privilege of being a part of a Roddenberry panel with several other podcasters. It was specifically podcasters in the space. And I had learned this tip from, I think it was Daniel J. Lewis on the Audacity to Podcast, about how important it is to have a folder of positive feedback, right? Of feedback that contributes to the growth of yourself as an artist or a content creator or a podcaster, because it's far more likely you're going to get a negative review than a positive one. I mean, just think about it when you go out to a restaurant. You're immediately more likely to write a bad review if you had a bad experience versus taking the time to write a positive review. And I'll tell you one thing about podcasting that taught me, and actually working in customer in retail, was take the moment to write a positive review for something, you know? If you get exceptional service and you like what you do and you like what you got, then take a moment to hit that Yelp and give it a review. But yes, it's important that that we elevate the positive conversations, you know, and to that point, if anything, what have you noticed from your communities as in the Star Trek community that have been positive changes since the lockdown? And what do you hope will stick around once things get back to quote unquote normalcy?
I almost don't want to grant the premise of your question. I don't think we're going to get back to normalcy. I really feel like what we're seeing right now is the new normal. I feel like just because it's this one thing, COVID, but there are undoubtedly going to be other COVID-like issues that are going to be plaguing us. Sorry, no pun intended. Plaguing us for the foreseeable future, if only because we're just now learning how to combat that. I feel like it's the tip of the iceberg.
Well, yes, that's true, right? We have new concerns to bring up, but you know, if in the United States, schools are opening back up. You know, people are going what?
And closing back up.
Right,
again.
and closing.
Yeah.
You know, people are returning to the general 9 to 5 in one way, shape, or form. You know, the conversations continue to happen about, you know, is it more productive to allow employees to work from home versus in the office? So, right. No, you're right. It's nothing's ever going to be normal again, you know, really is what it boils down to. But at least here in the States, the people above who have the pay grade to do so are doing their very best to get people back. So as that happens, right, as the hours shift, right, the hours that you can commit to content creating shift back to maybe less, maybe more. What do you hope sticks from the community? Were there positive behaviors that you saw during the pandemic as people were still home that you kind of hope stick, as things change again?
I'm just going to say right off the bat, I don't think I really noticed a change in general with my content. People, because my content is so focused, it's just usually or my GERD, I love that ship, or get that disco ship off the screen, that's not real Trek. So that kind of mentality was there before COVID started. It's still there during COVID, and it's going to be there well after COVID it's going to be there for a while. So for me, there isn't much of a change or anything I'd say I'd want to see sticking around. So I hope I bought everyone some time to think of something.
Thank you.
Well, you reminded me of something. I initially was feeling the same way, like, the way that my content operates, it's like, nothing really changed. My interactions with the community, aside from my time commitments, have not changed. But, one thing I actually have noticed, with more people feeling like they have the time to play Star Trek Online, more people seeing my content. I haven't plugged this before, but I do have tutorials on how I make my screenshots, and I probably need to plug it more often. I'm in the process of rewriting them for a third time, but I don't know when that's going to happen. But they're there. I've noticed that more people are following those tutorials and they're tagging me and saying, "Hey, I did this," and like it is. Like what Q mentioned earlier, like when people talk to you about your content like that, it's just, I'm over the moon. And I think part of that is because people have time on their hands, that they are bored and they want to do something. And I'm really happy that I've given them something to do, something to try. So I'd love for people to keep doing that, even if it's, It's definitely an ego boost for me, but I'm glad people have that too. So
I think anyone who's tried doing what I do to just like get mad at me and get frustrated and just I'm gonna keep Zeph. You just let them.
Yeah,
I can't keep it.
honestly, that's kind of where I shook out.
yeah, what Zeph does is way harder than what I do. Can confirm.
I wasn't trying to
Oh, God.
minimize what you do.
No,
It's
no.
fantastic. It's
But
just
still,
I just whenever I see somebody try and do video stuff and they're just like, no, how do you do this? How do you even? And I'm just like, I've been doing this for almost 7 years. It's like me. It's like somebody coding in Python. It's just I do it.
yeah.
Kat, is there anything from the Armada? Any changes that happened during COVID that you're like, you know what, this works. We're gonna stick to it.
I don't know if it was COVID specific, but we, with the recruitment events, we have had a lot more players, and maybe it's new Trek bringing a lot more fans into the game, but a lot more activity and a lot more new people. A lot of people coming back to the game. So I mean, it's nice to have a new people that are excited about the game, passionate about the game, asking questions about the game, wanting to learn. Because after a while you're like, I have my build set up and I'm gonna run this TFO for the 5 millionth time. But you have someone in there and you're trying to guide them through it and give them advice. That that's fun. That's nice. I like doing that.
You bring up a good point. Is with Star Trek Online specifically, and then the Armada, incoming players, new players, right? People that are coming in. Have you found that a lot of new friendships are flourishing within the Armada? New people coming in, and being able to dedicate time to building the fleet in one way, shape, or form.
I have noticed that. I mean, we've had, even in voice chat, we've had a lot of new voices. And I know that, a lot of those new people, again, are getting together and playing stuff together. They're working on builds together, watching people's videos, and commenting on that and really trying to learn the game and get more familiar with it. So that's, it's exciting to see that and to see people's energy and passion about it when you've seen it so much. It's not as exciting, but when you see someone else be excited, you're like, oh my God, I forgot about that thing. And now I want to redo my build,
Yep. There's a vicariousness.
so exciting.
Yeah,
that,
exactly.
right?
You're like, I forgot about that skin on that ship, and now I need, to redo my whole
Love that.
customization.
Or I forgot that ship existed.
Well, I saw someone with, what outfit was it? Ithanite some outfit where I'm like, I always doubt buying that in the Lobby store. And I saw someone do something really cool with it, and I'm like, I never thought of that. I'm going to have to buy that now and mess with it, because you're like, that's the dumbest outfit I've ever seen. But no, it's really, you can do cool stuff with it.
I love that imagination. I was going to say that it's funny you mentioned that because that's kind of what I've been going through with some of Lisa's watch parties while you're going through Deep Space Nine, which is that's my favorite Star Trek series.
It's getting a lot better, I will say. Like getting to the end of season 2.
And so
You're in for a lot.
watching the reactions, and especially those that are in your community that have never seen Deep Space Nine before, and there's that vicarious. It's like, I remember when I saw this for the first time. And I loved it. I mean, even though it is fairly high-minded or high-concept sociopolitical stuff, which Star Trek: Next Generation never really got into, because it was more like issue of the week as opposed to these long sweeping arcs of the Dominion and the Bajorans and all of that. But I appreciated that. But so getting to see people or experiencing that and seeing people's different takes on what's going on, and it's been kind of eye-opening. I think Dr. Erin Mack did the same thing not too long ago. She just finished where she had somebody who'd never seen Star Trek before, and they went through Deep Space Nine together, and it was really awesome. So I love that about Star Trek Online, if only because there are certain ships that I shy away from. If only for the same reason that Zeph doesn't like certain aesthetics and I don't like certain aesthetics, and so I kind of shy away from it. And then somebody will come up with this killer build for it and talk about the seating or talk about this, and I'll be like, right, but it's so ugly. Like, even though it kicks a lot of ass. I don't know that I want to like tool around.
And I wanna.
Yeah, like because at the end of the day, Space Barbie is the ultimate end game for Star Trek Online, and I'm a firm believer in that because because Star Trek Online is so immersive. It's such an immersive game that it's hard for me sometimes to break with my some might say parochial view on Star Trek design, but there's an appreciation that I feel like that has opened up, and it's due to the content creators that are in this roundtable right now, like between the Ship Talking Pod, between Rurin's screenshots, between Zeph's videos, even watching Peace play the story missions for the first time, and a lot of those stories I hadn't played in like years, but getting to kind of experience that through the eyes of somebody who'd never played it before has been pretty amazing. So I deeply appreciate all of the hard work that everybody's put into that, to put into their content, because it's very it affects me deeply, and dare I say has been inspiring.
Great. Anyone else want to add to the question of what you hope sticks around, the behaviors stick around, positive behaviors? No. All right. Well, I think we're at a good stopping point. I think we've had.
Has it been 2 hours?
It's been 2.5.
2.5.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
It just goes by so fast.
It does. Well, I just like talking to all of you. That's why I don't really get an opportunity. Who here gets an opportunity to talk to other content creators like this?
I mean,
Right?
I talk to Zeph all the time, but it's not like this.
right. It's not like this.
Yeah, I'm like, I talk to Elio every week, but again, not
Yeah.
like this.
Oh well,
This is
then
the first
never
time
mind.
Peace
You, you're used to it.
This is the first time like Peace and I have, I think, been like I've
Yeah.
talked to her through
Face
her
to face,
chat. and-
Yeah, I was gonna say same thing.
Yeah.
I've never really had an opportunity to talk to her.
Well,
Yeah, and I'm
captains,
new to peace.
those of you watching, check the descriptions. I've updated the description for this YouTube live stream with everyone's links. So be sure to give everyone a follow. And if maybe there's somebody here that you hadn't followed before and now will be, we hope that you'll share the content with all your fellow Trekkie friends. I want to thank our panelists for participating in this conversation. I also want to thank Rurin of Ship Talking Pod for collaborating with me during STLV this year, which inspired this roundtable conversation. Thanks to Alan of Zeph Films for helping us network and get this group together. To Roddenberry Entertainment for supporting this event. To Alejandro Todisco for making the some of the artwork you saw, promoting the event. We hope that you enjoyed the conversation and at the very least have been introduced to new content creators. As I mentioned, links will be in the description. Thank you all so very much for your time, for spending a Saturday afternoon here talking about the Star Trek community. Live long and prosper.
Yeah, live long and prosper. Well, maybe I should.
Peace
put on the right
out!
uniform. Peace out.
I do what I want.
All right. Good night, everyone.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Command codes verified. Priority 1 message from Starfleet coming in on secured channel.